In the 21st century, the world feels more connected than ever before, linked by technology, trade, and the intricate web of global institutions like the United Nations. Our daily lives are shaped by instant communication, international markets, and the constant flow of information across borders. The boundaries that once separated nations have blurred, creating a sense of shared destiny and mutual dependence. These organizations were born from the ashes of devastating wars, created with the hope of preventing future conflict and fostering a world built on cooperation and dialogue. The United Nations and its predecessor, the League of Nations, were designed to bring countries together, to mediate disputes and to promote peacekeeping missions in troubled regions. Over the decades, they have helped negotiate treaties, respond to humanitarian crises, and set global standards for human rights. Yet, despite these efforts, war persists, often erupting in new and unexpected forms. Modern conflicts are not just fought with tanks and soldiers, but also with cyber attacks, disinformation campaigns, and economic sanctions. These challenges test the limits of diplomacy and international law, revealing the fragility of the systems meant to keep peace. The war in Ukraine stands as a stark example of this new reality. It unfolds not only on the battlefield but also in the global information space, where narratives are shaped, alliances are tested, and the world watches in real time. Every development is broadcast instantly, reaching millions around the globe. The consequences ripple outward, with lives upended, families displaced, and entire communities forced to adapt to the uncertainty of war. The humanitarian response is massive, but the suffering is equally immense. This conflict has become a flashpoint for today's geopolitical tensions, challenging the post-Cold War order and forcing nations to reconsider their alliances and strategies. The stakes are high, not just for Ukraine, but for the entire international system. At the center of this crisis stands Vladimir Putin. His decisions have redrawn Europe's security map, upended decades of diplomatic progress, and forced a global reckoning with the realities of power and ambition in the modern world. Understanding Putin's journey, from an unknown intelligence officer in the shadows of the Soviet Union to one of the world's most powerful and controversial leaders, is essential to understanding the forces shaping our era. His rise reflects not only personal ambition, but also the shifting tides of history and the vulnerabilities of global governance. Ultimately, his story is not just about one man, but about the fragile architecture of peace in our interconnected world, a world where the actions of a single leader can reverberate across continents, testing the very foundations of international order and cooperation. Vladimir Putin stands defiant against international condemnation and sweeping sanctions over the invasion of Ukraine. In the West, he's seen as an authoritarian aggressor, silencing dissent and using force to achieve his goals. State-controlled media and jailed opponents reinforce this image. Yet within Russia and among some allies, he's viewed as a strong leader who restored national pride and stability after the Soviet collapse. Supporters credit him with defending Russia's interests and standing up to the West. These opposing views highlight a deep global divide, not just about Putin but about power, sovereignty, and the future world order. His leadership remains a defining force, shaping alliances and fueling conflicts worldwide. To truly understand Vladimir Putin, we must look back to his earliest days in post-war Leningrad, the city now known as St. Petersburg. This was a place still haunted by the devastation of World War II, its streets and buildings bearing silent witness to immense suffering and resilience. The city was deeply scarred by the horrors of the war. Putin's own family was no exception. His father returned home wounded, and the family mourned the loss of two young sons, Putin's brothers, who died before he was born. These personal tragedies were part of a larger tapestry of loss that touched nearly every family in Leningrad. Growing up, Putin lived in a cramped communal apartment, sharing a kitchen and bathroom with several other families. Privacy was rare, and resources were always scarce. In this environment, he learned early on that survival required both toughness and adaptability. The harsh realities of daily life meant that conflicts were common, especially among children. Putin quickly realized that if a fight was unavoidable, it was better to strike first than to be struck. This lesson in preemptive action became a guiding principle for him, shaping his approach to challenges throughout his life. He was a restless, scrappy child, often getting into fights and refusing to be intimidated. His determination not to be pushed around set him apart, earning him a reputation for resilience and grit among his peers. The collective memory of wartime sacrifice and the pride of victory were ever present. Parades, memorials, and stories of heroism filled the city, instilling in young Putin a deep sense of patriotism and a belief in the necessity of a strong, protective state. These early experiences, marked by hardship, loss, and the constant need for vigilance, shaped his worldview. Strength, resilience, and an unwavering sense of alertness became essential qualities in his eyes. Yet his childhood was not defined solely by struggle. It was also a time of absorbing the powerful story of his city's survival, of learning from elders who had endured the unimaginable, and of finding pride in the endurance of his people. This foundation of hardship, resilience, and national pride would later inform his vision for Russia, shaping the leader he would become. From a young age, Putin was driven by a singular ambition to join the KGB, the elite Soviet security agency. Inspired by spy stories, he saw the KGB as a path to power and service. Advised to excel academically, he studied law at Leningrad State University, setting his course. Alongside his studies, he found discipline and strategy in judo, a sport that became both a passion and a philosophy. Judo taught him control, respect, and how to use an opponent's strength against them, skills that would serve him well. After graduating in 1975, he achieved his dream and was recruited by the KGB. This marked the start of a career that would take him from the shadows of espionage to the heights of Russian power. The lessons of discipline, ambition, and tactical thinking would define his rise. Putin's KGB career took him to Dresden, East Germany during the waning days of the Cold War. There he witnessed the collapse of Soviet authority firsthand as the Berlin Wall fell and chaos erupted. When protesters threatened the KGB headquarters, Moscow offered no guidance. Moscow is silent. Forced to bluff his way out, Putin learned a lasting lesson. Power is fragile, and weakness at the top can be catastrophic. Returning to a disintegrating Soviet Union, he saw the state he'd served vanish. This experience cemented his belief in the necessity of a strong, decisive central government. The Dresden crisis became a core part of his political philosophy. Never show weakness. Never abandon your people. This conviction would guide his future leadership. After leaving the KGB, Vladimir Putin returned to his hometown of St. Petersburg, a city in the midst of dramatic change as the Soviet Union collapsed and Russia entered a new, uncertain era. It was here that Putin began a new chapter, stepping away from intelligence work and immersing himself in the world of local politics. He joined the city's administration under Mayor Anatoly Sobchak, a charismatic reformer and Putin's former law professor, who recognized his former students' discipline and loyalty. Starting as an advisor and quickly rising to the position of deputy mayor, Putin was entrusted with significant responsibilities. He managed foreign investment and trade, negotiating with international partners and helping to open St. Petersburg to the world during a time of economic upheaval. Through these roles, Putin gained vital experience in governance, economics, and the delicate art of political maneuvering. Behind the scenes, he became known as the Grey Cardinal, the quiet, effective power who got things done without seeking the spotlight. Navigating the turbulent 1990s, marked by crime, corruption, and political unrest, Putin built a reputation for loyalty, competence, and an ability to solve problems others could not. He forged a network of influential contacts both in St. Petersburg and beyond, quietly positioning himself as a trusted figure in a city rife with uncertainty. When Sobchak lost re-election, Putin's skills and reputation did not go unnoticed. Moscow's political elite, searching for reliable talent amid the chaos, took note of his steady hand. He was soon recruited to the presidential administration, where his background in law, intelligence, and city management made him stand out. In Moscow, Putin quickly rose through the Kremlin's ranks, impressing superiors with his calm efficiency and ability to navigate complex political landscapes. Amid the chaos and instability of Boris Yeltsin's government, Putin's composed demeanor and results-oriented approach set him apart from many of his peers. By the late 1990s, Putin was seen as a dependable, pragmatic figure, someone who could bring order and stability to a fractured system desperately in need of direction. His reputation for loyalty, discretion, and effectiveness made him a natural choice for higher office, as Russia searched for a leader who could restore confidence. This growing reputation would soon propel him to the very top of Russian politics, setting the stage for a new era in the country's history. In 1999, President Yeltsin unexpectedly appointed Putin as prime minister during a time of crisis. Russia faced economic turmoil and renewed violence in Chechnya, with terrorist attacks shaking the nation. Putin responded with a tough, uncompromising stance, launching a military campaign in Chechnya. His resolve resonated with a public desperate for stability and security. The war was brutal and controversial, but within Russia, it transformed Putin into a national hero. His approval ratings soared as state media portrayed him as the nation's savior. On New Year's Eve 1999, Yeltsin resigned, naming Putin acting president. Putin's handling of the crisis made him the undisputed leader, setting the stage for his long rule. The lessons of his youth, strength and decisiveness, had brought him to power. As president, Putin moved quickly to restore order and centralize authority. He curbed the power of regional governors and reined in the oligarchs, sending a clear message: challenge the Kremlin, and you'll be crushed. Rising oil prices fueled economic recovery, allowing the government to pay debts and improve living standards. Stability and prosperity replaced the chaos of the 1990s, cementing Putin's popularity. He established a vertical of power, ensuring loyalty from top to bottom. Elections and political parties remained, but real competition was tightly controlled. State media shaped public perception, and opposition was marginalized. This system of managed democracy allowed Putin to maintain his grip on power for decades. His rule became synonymous with order, control, and a resurgent Russia. Putin's journey from KGB officer to global power broker has reshaped Russia and its place in the world. Supporters see him as the leader who restored pride and stability. Critics call him an authoritarian who crushed democracy. On the world stage, his bold military actions from Georgia to Crimea to Ukraine have challenged the post-Cold War order. These moves have made him a pariah in the West, but a symbol of strength at home. As of June 2025, Putin remains a central figure in global politics, his ambition and tactics fueling conflict and debate. Whether viewed as patriot or dictator, his impact is undeniable. The story of Vladimir Putin is not just about one man, it's a crucial chapter in the turbulent history of our century. His legacy continues to shape the world we live in.